So, what if you could actually draw a map of your own mind? And I'm not talking about the physical brain, but that hidden inner world of your thoughts, your desires, and all your conflicts. Well, that was the incredibly ambitious project of Sigmund Freud, and today we're going to explore his map of the human psyche.
You know, these are the huge questions that really drove Freud. And he wasn't just sitting around in some quiet, peaceful study asking them. He was writing this stuff in the middle of World War I, with the world in absolute turmoil, trying desperately to find a model that could explain our deepest and sometimes most troubling behaviors. He wasn't just trying to describe feelings or behaviors, you see. He was attempting to build a truly scientific model of the mind's hidden machinery. He wanted a real psychology of the depths. Our journey into this map, it starts with a concept that we all think we know, but one that Freud took in a totally radical new direction: narcissism. For Freud, though, this clinical curiosity was just the very beginning. He didn't see it as some rare perversion. Nope, he saw it as a fundamental part of how we all form a self in the first place. So he came up with two forms. First, there's a primary narcissism we're all born with. That state where an infant's entire world is just itself. And then there's a secondary narcissism, which is kind of like a psychological home base we retreat to when the outside world gets too painful or disappointing. And wow, this quote just nails the idea of secondary narcissism, doesn't it? Even a simple physical pain like a toothache makes us pull all of our interest, all of our energy away from the outside world and focus it completely back on ourselves. And this is the crucial point. Our ability to love, to even be interested in the world, is powered by a finite energy source. He called it libido. And this energy, it can be invested in other people, kind of like putting money in a stock, or it can be pulled back and reinvested in ourselves. It's an idea that really resonates today, right? When we talk about having the mental energy for something, or feeling burnt out and needing to just focus on ourselves for a bit.
Okay, so where does this energy actually come from? What are the engines that are producing it? Well, for Freud, the answer was the instincts.
He saw instincts, or drives as they're sometimes called, not as these fleeting urges, but as relentless, constant forces that come from inside our bodies. I mean, think about it. You can run from a scary dog, but you can't run from your own hunger. That constant internal pressure, that's the essence of an instinct. And in his very systematic way, he broke every single instinct down into 4 key parts. Okay, so first there's a source in the body, let's say a dry throat. Then you've got the impulse. That's the force or urgency of the need. The aim is always satisfaction. In this case, drinking something. And finally, the object. Well, that's the glass of water that lets you achieve that aim. He then split these drives into 2 fundamental camps. On one side, you have the ego instincts, our drive for survival, for self-preservation. And on the other side, the sexual instincts, our drive for pleasure, for creativity, for connection. According to Freud, the entire drama of our inner lives is just the result of the constant conflict and mixing of these two. All right, so we have this energy, and we have these primal drives. But where do they operate? Now we get to the map itself. Freud's model for the landscape of the mind, the territory where all these forces are playing out. So Freud pictured the mind as this territory with 3 distinct regions. Now you might be thinking, hey, wait a minute, where's the id, the ego, and the superego? And that's a great point. That's his later structural model. This here is the earlier topographical map, and it's really the foundation for everything that came after. So you've got the conscious, that's everything we're aware of right this second. The preconscious, stuff we could be aware of if we tried, but the real action for Freud, it's all happening in the unconscious, this vast hidden kingdom of powerful desires and memories that are actively kept out of our awareness. And the powerful force that guards the border between the conscious and the unconscious, that's repression. Think of it like the mind's bouncer, pushing any unacceptable or painful ideas out of the VIP club of consciousness, all to protect the ego from anxiety and pain. And this is so crucial to understand. Repression isn't a single act of just forgetting something. No, it's an active, ongoing battle. The mind has to spend a constant stream of that psychic energy, what Freud called a countercathexis, to actively hold back the pressure from the unconscious. It's like you're trying to maintain a dam that is always threatening to break. So how does this entire model, the libido, the instincts, the unconscious, how does it actually work in the real world? Well, Freud applied it to one of life's most profound and painful experiences: loss.
He drew this really critical distinction between mourning, what we would call healthy grief, and the debilitating state of melancholia, or depression. Here's the difference. In mourning, the world feels empty. But in melancholia, the self feels empty. The person mourning knows exactly who or what they've lost, but the person with melancholia, they might not even consciously know what loss has triggered their state.
And this is the crucial insight. In melancholia, Freud argued, the ego basically identifies with the person who is lost. It says, the one I lost is now a part of me. But here's the catch. All relationships, even the best ones, contain a mix of love and hate, what he called ambivalence. So the anger you felt toward that person, it can't just disappear. Instead, it gets redirected inward. The vicious self-attacks of depression, Freud said, are actually attacks on a loved one that have been turned against the self.
So after all this, what's the ultimate takeaway from this intricate and, let's be honest, sometimes strange map of the mind?
Well, his grand ambition was to create this multidimensional framework to analyze any psychic event. He wanted to know, where in the mind is it happening, what conflicting forces are at play, and how is that psychic energy being spent or distributed?
Okay, this is a deep one. But in essence, what Freud is saying here is a profound challenge to our whole sense of self. He's arguing that what we consciously think and feel, it's just a perception. It's a distorted, heavily edited highlight reel of a much deeper, inaccessible, and far more chaotic reality happening in our unconscious.
And that leaves us with a pretty provocative thought. While yeah, a lot of the details of his map have been redrawn or even thrown out by modern psychology and neuroscience, his core idea that there is a vast, hidden, unconscious world operating within us, shaping our loves, our losses, and our very sense of who we are, that remains an incredibly powerful and unavoidable question that we are all still grappling with today.